Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Chun Hin Ng and welcome to Beyond Zero's virtual booth at Victoria's Clean Tech Expo. This is our talk on renewable energy industrial precincts, and it's our most latest project on repowering Australian manufacturing. And just before I go ahead, I'd just like to acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, the traditional owners on the lands on which I live and work, and would like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, as well as future leaders. So a little bit first about us as Beyond Zero Emissions. We're a climate change think tank that shows through independent research as well as innovative solutions how Australia can prosper in a zero emissions economy. We're a small dedicated team, but we rely on a large network of expert volunteers, many of which are professionals in their respective fields, to put out impactful reports as well as visions of what Australia can look like in a zero emissions economy. Some of our earliest work with industry was back in 2017 when we released the Electrifying Industry Report, which detailed a lot of technologies in which industries can transition gas and other fossil fuel-based processes towards electricity and the ability to be powered by renewables. Our other work also focuses quite heavily on communities, like this 10 gigawatt vision report for the Northern Territory, and we have released similar ones for Collie in Western Australia and more recently Hunter in New South Wales. Our most recent work is our most ambitious yet with the Million Jobs Plan, and it forms quite the big foundation of our current manufacturing work. So I'll just go into that a little bit on the next slide. So yes, the Million Jobs Plan was released in the height of the coronavirus pandemic last year, and it shows a way in which Australia can recover through low emissions projects, as well as really embracing this opportunity towards a greener future. And so we assessed many different sectors, including electricity generation, housing, transportation, manufacturing, land use, as well as areas with the circular economy. And through each sector, we've identified a range of jobs that are available in all these sectors by embracing technologies such as solar and wind, which is traditional, but also things like building retrofits, making more electric buses and electrifying our rail networks. For manufacturing in particular, there was quite a lot of interest from government and industries in projects such as green hydrogen, green steel and aluminium, the ability to produce chemicals through renewable hydrogen, as well as a range of other renewable-based manufacturing. And so that got a lot of interest and led to our current focus of work for this year. So I'll go into that leads us into the renewable energy industrial precincts. So I guess the first thing is, what is a renewable energy industrial precinct? The concept overall is quite simple. You have clusters of manufacturers, especially energy intensive manufacturers, and you have them powered by 100% renewables. And you do this by connecting them through transmission to areas such as renewable energy zones or areas that have a high capacity for renewable generation, and you back them up with firmed storage capacity. So this could be a pumped hydro, but also batteries and hydrogen. And then that gives you the reliability that industry needs for their manufacturing. And at the end of all this, what you get out of it is zero emissions manufacturing goods, which we are then able to export and really capture that growing low carbon and zero carbon market around the world. So that's the very basic gist of it, but the idea has quite wide-reaching implications for a lot of our infrastructure, as well as our whole industry sector and the wider economy as well. So when we've done this analysis, we've seen that there's opportunities all around Australia for these renewable energy industrial precincts to be rolled out. As you can see here, we've identified many all across Australia, many of them in existing industrial hubs. And part of our idea is to also for the ability to maintain current skills and jobs in these areas, both because the workers there do have a lot of skills that are relevant for these newer sustainable industries, and also because there's a lot of existing infrastructure in these areas for heavy industry. And this may include freight like rail and port, but also just like networks and skills and the ecosystem that is needed for these heavy industries. For Beyond Zero Emissions current work, we have identified Portland, Latrobe Valley, as well as Geelong, although it's not on the map. But there are potential areas for renewable energy industrial precincts for Victoria. But I will say just first off that our current work is focused in the Hunter Valley and Gladstone, just because we have existing connections there and a great local team working in these areas that's really giving us, I guess, an initial sort of case study to present to federal government as part of our work. But definitely there's lots of opportunities in Victoria as well. So I guess the question is, why do we want to pursue a renewable energy industrial precinct? As I alluded to a little bit earlier, there is a big change coming across the world for these low emission goods. And this is kind of reflected in the emission targets that are being set by companies all around the world, not only for their scope 1 and 2 emissions, but also scope 3, which affects their supply chains. And in particular, because Australia exports so many of the raw materials that form a part of that supply chain, that's going to come back and going to influence our companies here. And the idea for renewable energy industrial precincts is to be proactive about this shift and really take the lead and make the most of an advantage with our abundant renewable resources, and really meet the demand that will be coming from big companies like Toyota, Bosch, and Skanska for construction materials, Toyota for a lot of steel and aluminium automotive manufacturing. All of these companies have set scope 3 emissions targets, which will be coming through in the next few years. The other area of pressure that we are getting is also from investors who are seeing these high carbon industries as a risk for their investments. And to date, we've seen over 14 trillion divested, and this number is growing. And a great quote from Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is that companies with a clear plan to address the transition to net zero will distinguish themselves. In other words, companies with a clear, with an idea and the ambition to move towards net zero, they'll be able to get the interest of new investment. And so we really want to see Australian companies at the forefront of this, especially since we are so well placed with our renewables. And the last thing is how countries are also setting emission targets, and no doubt our biggest export partners, their targets in Japan, South Korea, China, as well as for the broad in Europe, UK, and most likely US, will affect the Australian economy and push that drive to net zero. And so renewable energy industrial precincts is a really good way in which we can be proactive about this shift and really seize it as an opportunity rather than being forced into it at when we haven't been prepared for. This map sort of highlights just how good our resources are compared to other countries around the world, and not only our renewable resources throughout the entire country, we also have an amazing grid that's able to connect all of these resources up, especially all along our eastern seaboard, to amazing renewable resources. And that also gives an advantage in terms of cheap energy. Having high yield renewables and having them for lower cost. So in terms of what Beyond Zero Emissions is doing, we have focused on 3 key areas. The first is to brief the government on these opportunities, and we've been focusing on the federal government most recently, just because we see that as one of the biggest roadblockers. And we are really keen to sort of have them realize the opportunity that is here for the manufacturing sector, as well as tie them to existing initiatives that the government already has in place. And so this includes the modern manufacturing strategy, the national hydrogen strategy, as well as the low emissions technology roadmap. And in fact, a lot of these initiatives and strategies cover key ideas such as low carbon steel and aluminium, as well as hydrogen. And we're really, there's a really nice alignment there. The only thing missing is the ambition and the vision for this zero emissions manufacturing. And so we're building our case there for the government, and have recently met with quite a few of the parliamentarians in March. Our other main focus is to showcase industry support. And as I've said, we're focused right now on the Hunter and Gladstone, but the idea is to attract industries in each of these areas and have them propose and sort of build a community around zero emissions manufacturing. And the work so far has been really great, actually, and it's really nice seeing them connect to each other, where previously they might have thought they were all alone, focusing on this kind of ambition for zero emissions. But it is actually quite a big movement. They see where the industries are headed, where the market is headed, and they want to tackle it. And we're helping them build that community and show that support to federal government so that we can plan for this shift. And the last thing is to make sure that Australia doesn't lose our advantage with this zero emissions global race. Like I said, we do have amazing resources here that we can take advantage of, but that is not the thing that will make us give us a definite lead in all of this. Things like technologies, innovations, as well as infrastructure needs to be built before these new manufacturing industries can be really embraced. And other countries are rushing along with their development, and Australia can get left behind. If we're late to the game, even with our abundant renewables, we may still lose the IP, the abilities for us to really sell our products in this new market. And the real opportunity to drive the Australian manufacturing sector. And again, we'll just have to rely on importing a lot of these technologies from overseas, which is a real missed opportunity, we think, at Beyond Zero Emissions. And so specifically to our work, we have submitted a pre-budget submission to the federal government. Some of the funding asks you see are there. And if you like more details, we have the full submission on our website, which you can then reference and then see what we have asked for the federal government. But like I said, our CEO and chair has been to Canberra in March. They met with over a dozen MPs, including key ministers, and many of them have been very positive with the engagement and keen for follow-ups. And so we're hoping for good signs there, but it seems like a good start with our federal engagement. So I'd just like to sort of show you a quick video that our team has put together for the Hunter, and it really captures what we're trying to build in each of these areas, as well as show you some of the great companies that are doing this work. So hopefully this video is going to play and you can hear the sound.
The Hunter is going to be the electric motor of the Australian economy. We're going to bring back steel. We're going to produce steel with 100% renewable energy, and our opportunities there are limitless. We're going to do green aluminium, green hydrogen, green ammonia, electrified manufacturing, and we have the opportunity and the infrastructure to export Australian renewable energy through these products here in Newcastle. I feel really optimistic about our future here in the Hunter. We have an incredible legacy of industry and infrastructure to build on. We have an amazing workforce. We've got experience in manufacturing, mining, and there's a whole ecology of companies that serve the mining industry, and they are really innovating. Everyone is pivoting to the zero emissions economy. There's this amazing revolution of innovation and decarbonisation happening.
So that was a video from our amazing comms team. I hope that played through well. At the very least, there'll be subtitles that you can read. But yes, it really is a great transition happening in the Hunter, and we're keen to help these companies and innovators through. So I'll just leave, I'll just leave you in terms of how you can support us and sort of what we're also seeking for in terms of future steps. There's two forms. In Victoria, there's the expression of interest. So that is for project proponents that may have zero emissions manufacturing projects that they would like to show us. And that includes a section where you can ask include, policy asks as well as funding support that you'd like to see from the federal government. And so we're keen to collect those and take onto our briefings with federal government just to show this is what industry is asking for and this is what things may enable these renewable energy industrial precincts to happen. The other one is a statement of support, and this is for people who may not be manufacturers or have manufacturing projects themselves. So this includes maybe investors, organizations, community groups, as well as other industries and companies that aren't directly in manufacturing, but would like to see these renewable energy industrial precincts be up and running. So they see the value in them and would like to publicly show their support and allow us to sort of use those specific statements to take to federal government. And so if you would like, please submit either of those forms on our website. So the address you can see down here in the bottom right. So please note that down, hopefully, or take a picture of it, and then you'll be able to go into a website. It contains a lot of information as well, a lot more details of what I've spoken about, as well as links to certain documents that you can then refer to and sort of read up on. But it's a really good source for a lot of the materials for our renewable energy industrial precincts. And if you have any further questions from there, please get in touch using industry@bze.org.au, and we'll try and make sure to get to them as soon as possible. That has been me for Beyond Zero Emissions. Hope you've enjoyed our talk at this booth. And again, please make sure you note down our website. But otherwise, thank you very much for attending, and we hope to catch you in person or virtually sometime soon. Thank you very much.